Hello and welcome to the latest webinar from Cloud Assess. We hope you enjoy.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to our latest webinar, Workplace Learning in 2023. I'm Alex Fuller, Head of Customer Success here at Cloud Assess, and today I'm joined by Jake Main, our Customer Success Manager. We're looking forward to stepping you through some insights and thought processes that hopefully add value to your workplace learning approach. Now, we're kicking off on time here, but I'm aware that there might be a few people joining us as they go. Coming into the meeting, definitely a good idea to just cover a bit of housekeeping. So we're going to stay on mute for the participants if we can for the majority of the session. Definitely jump in and use the live chat. Jake, who's going to be supporting me facilitating this, and myself will be able to answer any questions and queries that you've got in the live chat there. Through this session, we're going to launch a few polls and get some insights and share some experiences from yourselves as well. So a really nice, engaged audience will be awesome. We'll give you the opportunity as well towards the end of the webinar to ask lots of questions. You can raise your hand and we'll be able to take you off mute, hopefully, and we can have a really nice discussion around some of the points covered. Really key as well, enjoy, really try and make the most of the time that we spend, and there will also be a recording of the webinar available to you so you can look back at it in your own time. So we'll jump in. We're going to start straight into launching our first poll. So let's grab a poll together for you. You should be able to see this on your screens, hopefully. And the first poll we're going to start with, what do you think is your students' preferred way to learn? So if we get a few people across that, we'll get a few responses from you, and let's just see how that all stacks up. As you're answering the poll, I'm just going to continue with a few ideas really to set the scene. So as a provider of tech designed to facilitate learning, we've spent a lot of time thinking about the e-learning and learning processes. We also did some research recently, which led us to a question: the suitability of e-learning, particularly for practical skills. This drives a number of questions around what is really fit for purpose in this space. This webinar really aims to take you through some of the thought processes and gives consideration to what we're really looking to achieve and how we can use technology to create better outcomes. The title, Workplace Learning, represents two trains of thought. Number one, how do we maximize learning? And number two, considering best applications to achieve that. Now, we've got lots of people answering the poll. So our first poll, thinking about your training delivery. What is your students' preferred way to learn? So we've got a clear sort of winner there, which is backing the hybrid or blended approach to training. Feel free to jump in if you haven't engaged with the poll just yet. But blended hybrid, 43% of us think that that's our learners' preferred learning style. We do have a very close second with face-to-face or facilitator-led learning opportunities. So those two clearly stand out. We've only got 4% saying online or remote delivery of learning. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to end the poll just there. We've got a couple more polls coming up as we move through, so keen to get your engagement with those, but very, very interesting information to have a look at. Now, some of the research recently delivered, which was conducted by Census-wide on behalf of Cloud Assess and covered amongst 500 senior HR professionals and over 1,000 deskless workers. Actually, before we go too far, what is a deskless worker? We hear this term, it's referred to a few times through the presentation. So a deskless worker, simply a person who spends the majority of their time away from a desk. So their role doesn't require them to be permanently or predominantly sat at a desk. Now, based on the research conducted, 63% favored scheduled sessions rather than on-demand content. 87% of HRMs feel that face-to-face or hybrid is more effective than solely online. So that really does match with the consensus we had in our first poll. Over a quarter of employees aged between 16 and 34 believe training and development is the most critical factor when it comes to their engagement as an employee. So interestingly, this age group was found to be the least motivated by salary. Just 42% chose pay as their primary motivator, compared to 52% of employees aged 45 and over. The research also found that when done well, training and development have a strong impact on young people's work ethic and than any other generation. Over 2/3 of 16 to 34-year-olds claim that training and development improves their commitment to their employer, the highest of any age group. Also, 3/4 of young workers agree that it boosts their job satisfaction. In addition, the study reveals that young people have stronger views on how they would like their training to be delivered. While the most popular training format amongst all age groups was face-to-face, Gen Zs were more unanimous despite their limited time in the workplace, with just 17% choosing online training as their preferred training format. By contrast, those aged 45 to 54 were more divided, with 1/4 choosing online training as their preferred format. So that's an interesting, that stat surprised me. So based on that information, with more division in the 45 to 54-year-old age group, 1/4 choosing online training as their preferred format, we're going to use that to launch our second poll. So the second poll that we're looking at here is that generational difference. So the question we're posing: do you feel these generational preferences are a result of their ability to use technology when engaging with their learning? So keen again to get your insights. Do we think that perhaps slightly older generation, 45 to 54, would be more likely to suggest that they prefer online training delivery based on their ability to use technology or not? So keen for that insight there. While we're going, despite the importance of employees placing young people place on training and development, research found that 71% of millennials and Gen Z employees believe their training that their employer provides could be improved. So making them the least satisfied of any age demographic. So keen to see how that poll sort of plays out here. Again, we've got a clear sort of winner. This one surprises me a little more. So when we're saying the slightly older age group of 45 to 54-year-olds would have more likelihood to choose online training, how does their sort of ability to use technology affect this decision? We're suggesting that over 70% agree that that's the case. You know, their comfort with technology allows them to sort of make that decision, where nearly sort of 25% of them would preference online training. So interesting there. Okay, there's a good second place there with we're not really thinking there's much association, and it perhaps doesn't matter to that result. So maybe there's other influences or factors that are coming into play there. All right, so interesting results there, and I can share those results with you so we can see exactly where we're at. Very interesting. We'll move on. So workplace learning defined. So defining our approach to workplace learning. When we're talking about how we're going to define our approach, should we be starting perhaps a training needs analysis with considerations for that generational requirement, perhaps environment, the preferences that we're learning about, and the available resources? So a good plan, training needs are analyzed and they're discussed openly to ensure that our approach is aligned to the requirement. So we also have to have that consideration of industry. Different industry, different role, and different training types might have greater impacts on our analysis and our requirements in delivering that workplace learning. HR managers are actually aligned with their workforce in this area, with 87% agreeing that perhaps face-to-face or hybrid training is much more effective when it's rather than being delivered exclusively online or in isolation. Also, the majority of deskless workers, 53%, and 63% of HR managers favored that scheduled sessions approach, as opposed to the on-demand material that can be accessed at any time. So this really does reinforce the strong preference amongst deskless workers with hands-on training sessions, which allow them to observe and perform practical tasks that will be required of them consistently and in real time. So self-led, computer-based learning simply doesn't allow for this, and risks becoming a tick box exercise with limited benefits, whereas repeat learning sessions over time are proven to generate significantly better learning outcomes and skills development. Now, there's a distinct lack of models and methods to the development of practical skills. What we're looking at here is the Miller's Pyramid from way back in the 1990s. It's a way that was used of ranking clinical competence, both in educational settings and in the workplace, but it's super relevant outside of that clinical setting. It argues that to truly know whether our learners are achieving what we want them to achieve, we should assess them in the setting that we expect them to be delivered. This rationale really underpins the concept of assessment in the workplace. It also recognizes the fact that the learning skills is a journey and not a moment in time. We know that skills development takes time and practice in applying knowledge in a practical context. For example, the learning pyramid, which was developed by the National Training Laboratory, suggests that most students only remember about 10% of what they read from textbooks, but retain nearly 75% of material that they practice by doing. Really demonstrates a clear advantage of that hands-on learning approach. Thinking about any practical skill that you've learned through your lifetime, it's a repeated practice and application of doing that improves your capability. It's not a one and done process. So I think it really resonates with that practice and application over time. So what are the needs and objectives? So what's the motivation, the driver for really effective workplace learning? So straight up, we know there's a significant skill shortage here in Australia and around the world at the moment. And that's highlighted by the recent Deskless Worker report. In that report, people surveyed indicated the desire to learn on the job has become more prevalent. So it was in the top 5 reasons to stay with that company. Now, workplace learning doesn't need to stop at that, let me show you. There's also that element of let's give you a go. So in a controlled, safe environment with proper approach from our training needs analysis, that should be something that perhaps we're looking to include and embed within our learning journey. There's a model, this 70-20-10 model. Now, this is an interesting model. It's a learning and development model developed by Lombardo and Echinger, and it demonstrates that 70% of our knowledge and skills are acquired on the job. So that's a huge proportion of the knowledge and skill that we're able to sort of invest and install within our learners, 70% from actually applying on the job. 20%, just 20% for mentors, coaches, buddies, workplace supervisors, so 20%. And coming in last place, 10% formal learning, so lectures, courses, and the like. So that 70-20-10 model, again, really hammers home that and resonates that sort of requirement for a very practical approach to really installing and embedding effective learning. This demonstrates a real clear advantage as well to that hands-on learning in the workplace. Now, COVID response. We've been really on the front line, I suppose, to see different environments and the COVID response from existing clients and certainly new clients over that time period. So we very much saw as well that e-learning was perhaps the way a good majority went. So we took that learning, we made it the remote delivery. Sometimes that might have been what we felt was the only option, the only choice that would work for us. But, you know, looking back, was that the right decision? Is it a decision we've stuck with? So have we sought feedback and what outcomes did we get? In the survey, almost half of HR managers and deskless workers believe that COVID-19 worsened the training provisions available to employees. Whereas by contrast, a quarter of the HR managers believe that COVID-19 actually improved training available to employees, but it's not echoed by the results there for the deskless worker. Less than a fifth of workers surveyed agreed that the pandemic had a positive impact on training and development. So very clear there that that sort of requirement to change perhaps our delivery model and our approach to that learning journey might not have been the most effective. Now, one thing both employers and employees can agree on is the need for training. The majority of HR managers, 80%, and deskless workers, over 68%, claim that the need for training and development has increased in the last 5 years. So during that pandemic, the majority feeling not only have we had to change that model up, perhaps use new technologies that we haven't refined, involved, and perhaps didn't have such a solid and robust training needs analysis. That 5-year gap has also driven an increased need into training and development within the workplace. So it really highlights that having clear upskilling strategies in place is more crucial to business success than ever before. So the real motivation is there. Now, what we know. So looking at some statistics here, 40% survey told us that safety was their #1 concern if training was to cease. So safety being the biggest factor within the workplace environment. It shows a direct relationship between the quality of our training and the safety of those workplaces. If we were to cease training, remove it, our biggest concern would be that safety. Now, this is here in Australia. Those survey results were perhaps not echoed across other markets, Europe, etc., where efficiency was brought up and quality certainly featured highly in that. I think they're all valid, but really sort of, a positive there, that safety being a #1 factor. And why safety is important. So, looking at what we know here from a safety perspective, again, some references that will be shared with you as part of access to the slide deck here. But the lack of workplace skill is a significant risk to business. 40% of Australian companies list safety as their biggest concern in the absence of training, as we've seen. Between 2003 and 2021, there were 4,306 fatalities in the Australian workplaces. Now, more than 55% of fatalities and trauma were due to a lack of competency and inadequate training. So huge statistic there to really hit home to what the delivery of training and learning looks like and why it's so important in the workplace. That places 70% of workplaces at risk of either significant or fatal injury occurring. It's a huge statistic, and something as training providers, we have a huge impact on as well. So workplace learning, how is it delivered? So we've got a number of considerations here. We've talked about multi-generational workforces. We've talked about the different industries. And when we look at industries, it isn't all around this deskless worker. There's a lot of practical application, a lot of learning across the whole vocational suite of industry that we'll engage with, and very practical requirements that are very different across industry, which can significantly change how we approach our training, our assessment, and our learning within that environment. We've also got to consider the efficiency and time. So for learning to be really effective, it's got to be timely, but it's got to be accessible. So learning, in fact, studies are showing that learning can occur all day, every day in the workplace. So really, should time be a barrier? Different types of practices come with their own challenges. In some environments, we can't safely provide access to a task that might require pre-training or requirements in advance. But how do we manage it? How do we deal with these challenges, I suppose? So that's why training needs analysis is absolutely key, having a solid plan to start from. Now, in the work environment, there's regular breaks to contend with, deliver in a style that really aligns to the preferences. Let's look at our cohorts. Let's go back to what we know and see how we apply that within our planning and our delivery. So are we looking at face-to-face? Are we working on the job with these users? If we were delivering practical learning or looking to sort of assess in a practical context, is that best done in the classroom, taken away from the work, the work environment? Is it the case that we could adapt our experience or process to really engage where learning happens? So really key. Engagement in the audience really plays a key part as well in defining their aspirations. So having the ability to explain how it can help in their career, how they can benefit from skills, really promoting a growth mindset, minimizing distraction, and providing learning context and rationale behind what we're doing, and being open around how we're approaching that. So another model here to look at. So this is what we is referred to as the 4-step model. It's actually by an individual called Peyton, and it originates from a military background. Now, what we're seeing on slide here is come from 4 steps, and the first step being demonstration, second, deconstruction, third, comprehension, and fourth, execution. Putting that into terms we're more familiar with, we've got that realistic demo. So, the trainer demonstrating. We've got the trainer talk through. So here we're deconstructing it, we're breaking it down, and we're explaining each step really clearly and answering questions as we go. We've then got the learner talk through. So this is gauging that comprehension. So the learner or the trainee directs the trainer, providing instructions. So they're supporting my demonstration and showing their comprehension, their understanding the skill required. And then the learner doing, so execution. So the trainee here does the skill under close supervision where relevant, obviously, describing each action before it's done. So a really, really strong model here. And whatever your process for training practical skills, if you're going to use technology to support a skills development journey, how do we best do it? How do we demonstrate that a learner is making progress to plan? What tools and resources do we currently have? So applying a model to a learning process, really key. Now, to answer some of the questions, because I'm very much aware I haven't given the answers at this point, we're going to hand over to Jake here. So Jake's our customer success manager, and Jake's going to step you through some of the delivery options, some of the solutions that are available. So over to yourself, Jake. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. G'day, everyone. Jake here. We're going to take it from here, moving on to our next slide. We really want to tackle how do we deliver workplace learning? So reflecting on our approach. So first of all, what are we looking to improve? And also, what are our challenges? So firstly, we're looking to improve the efficiency of our learning. So how are we delivering our training? Is it meeting our needs? Is it meeting the employer's needs? And is it meeting the learner's needs? Next, it's skills, competency, and capability. How do we ensure that our training meets the skills gaps and the workplace needs? Next is learner outcomes. Have we validated how we're going to achieve these goals and those of our learner? And then we have our learning life cycle, which is thinking about the frequency of training and refreshers to keep competency current. On the other hand, we have our challenges. So there's always going to be a challenge with student engagement. How do we keep our students engaged and focused on what they're trying to achieve? Then we've got the technology aspect as well. How should we leverage technology to deliver our training? Is our current system suitable for the job? Then there's evidence. Do we have robust methods for regular collection and storage of evidence to prove these competencies? And then availability of learning opportunities. Do we have the resources, the equipment, the trainer skill to deliver workplace learning? What needs to be done here? And finally, we need visibility. Can we track our learners' competency at any point in time? Very important. So how do we support workplace learning using the Cloud Assess platform? So let's look at some solutions that we can offer to support workplace learning. There's a range of aligned features that are going to help you achieve this, starting with logbooks, the ability to log activities and have those feed into a report. We have our evidence portfolio. We're asking students to record and collect evidence of them conducting a skill. Then we have our practical observation, our observation checklist. These are assessor-led observations where they're reviewing the learner, conducting a skill and marking the competency checklist. Then we've got third-party and supervisor reports, which will be designed for the assessor and third party to interact with, collecting more evidence on the observations of our learners conducting that skill. And we have training record books that we can build and deliver on the Cloud Assess platform, all helping with our process confirmation. So these resources provide a suitable system to help build staff capability and help deliver your plan. They're time efficient and they're going to help with your employee engagement in this process. So moving on from that, let's take a look at a platform demonstration briefly. This one, cool. Great. First of all, we have our matrix view here. This is at the intake level, so class by class. And what we see here is a list of our students and their competency across a range of units that we've enrolled them in. At a glance, we get to see who's competent, which is indicated by the green blocks, who is not yet competent, indicated by red. Blue indicates learners that are currently in progress, working towards competency. Purple in this instance refers to withdrawn. We can drill down deeper into a student's profile here to see exactly what activities and assessments make up this unit or module or this skill, and what the learner needs to do to achieve competency in that skill.
Absolutely. And I think while we're looking at the matrix there, it's key to understand that this can be sort of really relevant and specific to perhaps role-based learning and delivery as well. So the assignment of skill-based or learning-based requirements, along with those modules, which might be pieces of equipment, could really and should very much perhaps in the workplace align to what that role requirement is. Not necessarily, if we're not delivering accredited training, not necessarily the units of competency that make a training package or fit the model. If we're working in the workplace, how do we align it to a role? Is it relevant for us to do so? Again, this is really getting back to that training needs analysis piece as well.
Thanks, Alex. Next, let's jump into an example of a logbook that's been built on our platform. Keep in mind, all of this is customizable and to your design. The logbook here provides checklists for the learner to check through and the ability for them to upload evidence as well. So whether that's photos, videos, they can upload directly from their device straight into the logbook. Those logbook results will also feed into our reporting system, which is what we're looking at here. We can see each of our learners and their progression towards those logbook targets. Those targets might be instance-based, or they may be value-based, depending on the setup of our logbook. We can also see that we can see averages as well for each different skill and the log of those across all of our cohort. Next, here's an example of an observation checklist that we've built on the platform. Observation checklists are designed for the assessor to interact with as they observe the employee or the worker engage in a skill. They can have check boxes here associated with it. They include marker guides here, and we can upload evidence as well. So the assessor can record the skill being completed and upload that directly into the observation checklist. All about learning on the job and recording evidence while completing the job. We also have third-party reports, which are built on the platform. They're designed for assessors and third parties to interact with. Again, this is a way to collect further evidence. The third party could be a manager, a workplace supervisor, and we can issue them with a login, get them to complete these records, and provide more evidence of the learner learning the skill and conducting the skill. They can record the date that it was witnessed, leave any feedback. They can also leave signatures here, third-party signatures and assessor signatures, making sure that we have a watertight process there.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting here, some of the typical barriers to being able to bring these tools live into the work environment, be it placement or otherwise, is internet connectivity and accessibility as well. So when you're validating systems, it's really, really relevant to have a look at, is our tool fit for purpose? Can we use it perhaps in an offline environment? Can we access it on devices that we choose? What are the restrictions and limitations? We're looking for a platform that not can only deliver to all of our really robust assessment requirements and deliver fantastic on-the-job learning, but we might also have a more traditional need of a learning management system, etc. And you need to also have that as consideration in choice. So, the typical learning content, etc. Jake, do you want to just step through? So if it be e-learning, that sort of thing, can be fully sort of embedded within these processes as well to support. Through what we've said up to this point, we've really not focused on AI, VR, or anything else around learning. There is a place, I'm sure, for e-learning. There is a place where these kind of tools, which are becoming very commonplace in the delivery for training providers and workplaces, there is definitely a place. Is that place necessarily first and foremost within workplace skill? I think you know where we stand on that based on what we've said through the initial presentation. But it's definitely a tool, definitely a resource that you shouldn't perhaps have the restriction of not being able to engage with as well. Cool.
Right. Okay. So, of course, if you're keen to learn more in regards to how we can help you, we recommend booking a demo with one of our experts through our expert team, through our website. Love to get in a session with you, talk you through how the Cloud Assess platform can help you attack some of these problems. So next, we're going to talk about what features do we need to deliver workplace learning. So we've got cyclical assessments that help reflect expiry and keep up-to-date competency. We've got our matrix view to see where the skill gaps are. We have verification of competency, role-based contextualization, evidence collection, and clear visibility to track the stages of mastery. Now, all of these solutions are customizable to fit your requirements and allow an easy transition to a better approach to workplace learning. Now, we do include e-learning where relevant. It has its place, and a good system should be capable of providing a great experience and handling all your content needs, whether that's interactive HTML, SCORM, or LTI learning activities. Next, let's talk about how we measure effective workplace learning. So we do that through our reports. You may or may not be recording a reduction in accidents in the workplace. We'll be measuring that in higher productivity, and also, really importantly, the employee's ability to work across roles. So when we have absences, when we have illness, we have clear visibility of who else in the company can jump across and fill those roles. This builds solid competency and valid evidence to support.
Awesome. Okay. So before we go into questions, we've also got some case studies. We've got some further information that we'll explore, but just a quick summary of where we're at. So should we be considering our reliance on e-learning at this stage? Should we look at the opportunities to align with what the requirements are of that sort of deskless worker, that practical employee, and how we're going to support their learning journey? We've clearly identified objectives in our training needs analysis here, and having a better understanding what learning is and the science behind it, we have the ability to really put a learning model into practice that's best aligned. So real information, great statistics, very current, very, very useful when we go back to our plan. Is our plan right? Do we have the available resource, equipment, and systems to deliver what we feel we should? So yeah, really, really keen now to get your thoughts. Now, prior to the webinar, we did ask some questions as you signed up there. So I've got a number of questions that I'm going to work through as well. But jump into the live chat, or if you feel very confident and comfortable talking, raise your hand. Happy to sort of unmute there. Let us know what questions you've got, and we'll have some conversation. I think it's really important to understand the different contexts, the different challenges, the different sort of methods and modes that we've been tried some that work for us, perhaps some that don't, some different viewpoints and perspectives. It's all fantastic information. We've tried to keep opinion away with the fact of the survey, etc., but it's limited information, it's limited data and ensuring, a true a truly correct process. So information is king. So please feel free, engage, let's share it up. I know we've got some questions coming through the live chat there, but really, really keen to see what experiences are out there that we can all learn from as well. Throw a question up just to help perhaps spur a few on. So, really keen to have a thought through this one. So ways to track, record skills progression. Is it setting milestones? What do we think around practice or simulation? When we look at ourselves, what value have we had from that practice, repeat, and do sort of hands-on approach? Cool. It's good to see a good few familiar names as well in the session today. I'm not going to be an unfamiliar face to a good number of you, which is great. And for those of you who haven't met me, I'm not the tall one with hair. Yeah, great to see some old acquaintances and some new as well. Fantastic. As I mentioned earlier, we will be sharing a copy of the recording as well. So in the next 48 hours, you'll get a copy of the recording to help us improve these sessions as well, which we've got more coming in the pipeline. There's a really exciting lineup of webinars for this year. It's a space we really want to sort of open up and get some great experiences from the wider audience and really sort of look at how we better align and help the current client base, which is really varied here at Cloud Assess, but also how we can fit it with solutions where certain typical approaches just aren't a good fit. So there'll be plenty more to come from us. We'll make sure we send that information. When you do receive the recording as well, after this webinar, we are going to do a quick survey. We love the surveys. We love the information. Try and engage with it if you can. It'll be very quick, but it will also be very beneficial, allowing myself, Jake, and the wider team to really align what we're looking to achieve, what you'd like to see more of, what you feel should be talked about. Really keen to get amongst it all, open to all topics there. Fantastic. So while Jake's answering those questions, I'll just drop up and I might talk us through really quickly a bit of a case study. So we've been working with the largest rail freight provider here in Australia, and they had some very sort of aligned challenges to this deskless worker requirement. So very remote locations, and they had a requirement that wasn't met with their current solutions. So a big need was that verification of competency. And in their environment, it's done very practically. How are we going to verify competency around operating, heavy equipment away from that heavy equipment? So it's very much a face-to-face delivery. And they need it to be really quick, unintrusive, really easy to adopt, and remove as much downtime or remove downtime wherever possible. So they've got some very common requirements around cyclical assessment. So how valid and current that verification process is was key to their plan. So a move to Cloud Assess really did reduce a very heavy paper-based process. They had a all bells and whistles learning management system, but believe it or not, and it's a common thing we see, very, very dependent on paper when it came to that work-based or workplace environment for any delivery of verification of competency or similar practical-based assessment and training. This was, still very much a paper-based process. So we removed paper from their entire operation there. Very good outcomes. and the engagement from a workforce that is really across the generational spectrum has been phenomenal. The team there being, extremely fantastic to work with, and it's really good to see those outcomes. With other testimonies and stuff, you will find it on the website. Jump in there. There's some great resources as well. We're keen to share everything we can with you, and looking forward to meeting you at further webinars. It just leaves me to hang around for any further questions that are coming. We're getting a number of questions direct and stuff, so happy to facilitate those. We'll get you the copy of the recording. I just thank you very much for your time. I know it's precious, and all the contributions. We're looking forward to catching up with you soon in our next webinar. So thank you very much for myself and Jake here. Looking forward to speaking to you as we move forward. Don't forget, if you'd like to speak to us directly, you can access through our website, get a contact us or a demonstration request. We'll happily facilitate whatever requirements you've got. But looking forward to speaking soon.